You're working at Memorial Sloan
Mhm.
Kettering. So
Yeah,
you're working with patients. This isn't a well checkup visit or an annual
no.
or physical.
It's not.
This is working with people who are dealing with cancer treatment. Can you share with us maybe a highlight of your time at work and then also one of the most difficult things you've experienced at work? What's a work highlight and a work low light?
A work highlight is um, there's about two I can think of. So the first one was an elderly woman who could not hear, like she barely could hear. So she checked in one time, and so after she checked in, she could not hear anyone call her. So she was just waiting there for hours, and she wasn't called that day. So that completely ruined her experience that day. And the next time she came and she told me that, and so I kept my eye on her so that when they would call her, that I would make sure that she was there for her appointment. And just like the look on her face, she was like so thankful that I was just watching out for her, and she was like beaming and everything. And it felt really good to be able to help someone, even if it was something small like that. Like it really changed her whole day. She was able to go home early and just do whatever she had to do for the rest of that day. And a second one, I think, is so a patient, so they actually fell inside of the bathroom. And so they had to pull like this wire that alerted everyone. And so I was able to get to the bathroom and help them up with a bunch of nurses because there wasn't that many staff members there. So I was able to help him up onto the wheelchair and they took him to the ambulance, but he was thankfully okay for that day. And I feel like that was just so rewarding that I can physically help someone who was just asking for my help.
Now tell us a little bit about a low light, a difficult time at work.
So I was checking in patients, and so there's like this really tall guy, maybe like 6'3" or something. And then I was checking him in, but behind him was a gentleman who was sitting down because they were like really weak or frail. But I had no idea because they're behind the counter and like so they're on the floor. And then someone else who was working saw the patient on the floor and then asked if he was okay and everything. And even though I couldn't see them or help them, like I felt really bad because I should have been there to help him.
What was what was that negative feeling? What do you think? Where did that come from?
I don't know. I just have that feeling like I should have been there regardless somehow. Like have a sixth sense, but uh, I shouldn't be too hard on myself. I don't think, but I was for that day.
I'm glad to hear you say that and acknowledge that you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. That is, I've noticed that for a lot of people who have service oriented hearts, one of the things they struggle with is being being hard on themselves when things go wrong. I think one of the most important things that we can do in a leadership role and in a service role to avoid burnout, because it's very common, especially in health fields, right? Healthcare burnout is a real thing. What is something that you do, John, to take good care of yourself? Because one of the big lessons in our leadership class that I would teach you, that I always hoped that you guys took away, is that we cannot pour from an empty cup.
The first one,
Oh, I love it. You've got more
uh,
than one coming to mind.
yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. So when I started working, I was just like, oh, the managers, they're watching me. I have to do a good job. Like, I have to do a good job. So, to kind of ease my anxiety, I listened to like self affirmation videos, like right before sleep. So that it would be like, oh, you are worthy, you deserve this, or tomorrow's gonna be a great day, stuff like that. I'll write little notes on my like binder, like, oh, another great day. And it was just like put a smile on my face. So I do that to help my subconscious to like kind of calm down.
Hmm.
And then secondly, I listen to music that like I can relate to or just like feel better. Or if I'm feeling down that day, sad music will help me oddly feel better. So I think that helps a lot. And third, so because we're in a pandemic right now, I am always shallow breathing constantly because I don't want to inhale more air than I need to. So I shallow breathe and then I'm not getting enough oxygen in my brain. So then I have to constantly remind myself, just take deep breaths. And then like I breathe in for like 4 seconds, pour out, just so that I have enough oxygen in my head so that I won't feel down and I'll be ready for like if I'm doing an assignment or something.
Awesome. And the third thing about breathing, that is so important. I hadn't even considered that people might be, I know people do shallow breathing all the time, but
Mhm.
I wasn't even thinking that because of the situation we're living in and being fearful with COVID, that people might be shallow breathing even more than
Mhm.
before. So
Yeah.
really important reminder to take deep breaths. I recently came across do you use Google Chrome, by the way? Do you use Chrome?
Yeah. I use Chrome.
I use Chrome also, and there's a Chrome extension called Breathe, where you can program it every however many interval time you want, say every 30 minutes or every hour. Whatever you're doing online at that marked time, the Breathe app, the Breathe extension will come on your screen and remind you to breathe for however long you say, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever. Like you actually, it takes over for a second.
Oh.
And this blue and white screen comes on that says breathe,
Mm.
and then inhale slowly, hold it, exhale for however long that you want. So I just started using that myself because I'm I need the reminders to take deep breaths too. John, if you could go back in time,
Mhm.
you have 15 seconds to talk to your 18-year-old self, and you graduated now, so you're in your very early 20s. What would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self in 15 seconds?
Don't stress too much, and definitely take care of yourself earlier. Start working on better things. So that would probably be 15 seconds, right?
Awesome. Well, those are really powerful messages for anybody, no matter 18 or not. Let's recap your message to everybody listening today, whether they're a college student or a student of life. What is it that you want them to take away from what you've shared with us today?
I think it's important that you acknowledge that you're nervous, you're not sure what's going to happen in the future, which is absolutely normal. I went through that for sure these past few months. But I think it's also important to know that you can do and accomplish your everyday tasks. Don't always think about the end goal. Because if, let's say, you wanted to become a doctor or like a lawyer or something, if you're constantly thinking about just the end goal, you'll completely miss the journey and you're not going to focus on today. And so you're going to get overstressed. So I would focus on today. And then every single day you take one step, it's closer to that goal, but keep it in mind, but don't always focus on it every single day. Do what you can, and eventually you'll hit those milestones, and then you'll get there someday.
And that's wise advice, John, because if we were to only focus on the end goal, which I do believe it's important to focus on that result that we want,
Mhm.
but if that is the only thing we focus on, like you said, we miss out because life, that expression, right? Life isn't about the destination, it's about the journey.
Mhm.
That's where things happen. I also want to add that celebrating the achievement of a goal, taking time out to
Yeah.
really say,
Hmm.
I graduated. I did a great service at work today. I delivered a really good speech. I worked really hard on this project. And to say, at a minimum, you know what? I am going to do a little celebrating. I'm going to make a toast to myself, with my friends,
Hmm.
with my family. Something that's in celebration of the thing we achieve rather than just next.
No, I definitely agree. Like, I think just this past week, I was just like going over the achievements. It was like a little uncomfortable at first. I was like, this feels weird to like just only talk about my highlights because we're always focusing on, oh, I could do this better, this better. But it felt kind of nice. Like, it was definitely something I needed to do because I was just feeling down a certain day. And then just to remind myself of like how far I've come, I'm like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can get through these next months, next year, just based on the past results that I've had. So I think that's definitely good advice.
Absolutely. Those of us who are growth minded, growth focused, and who have been taught to be humble, it can feel like bragging when we
Yeah.
are acknowledging our achievements.
Mhm.
And then there are the people who overly focus on their achievements, and then
Uh,
they sound conceited and self-absorbed. But I don't find most people to be on that side of
mhm.
self-absorption. I actually find people are more so lean towards undervaluing and underappreciating themselves.
Definitely. It's just hard sometimes, but we'll get there.
What do you think is hard about it, John? What do you think the barrier is?
For me, I think just uh just being humble has helped me like succeed in anything that I wanted to do. So it's really hard to go past that extreme humble barrier where like I feel a sense of, oh, I'm taking this extremely serious if I'm not feeling good about it yet. And so I'm taking it super serious and then I'll achieve that outcome. So it feels a little uncomfortable to be like, oh, I've already done this. I'm congratulating. Like, like never celebrate too early type of feeling. It's like that. That's what makes it hard for me.
I think it's hard for you and it's hard for a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially because we are so busy
Hmm.
that it feels like I don't really have time to acknowledge this thing that I just did because I've got to move on to the next.
Right.
But can we carve out even 5 minutes to do something that marks it as a celebration? Or even a tiny little debrief or something small where we can just tell ourselves, you know what, I'm really happy that I achieved this thing. And then when it's time to move on, we move on to the next thing.
Right. For me, it's like food. I love food. So if it's like been a rough week, I'll just grab something and just like that's my mini celebration.
Good. And yes, I mean, who doesn't love food? I mean,
Yeah.
food is fantastic. John, thank you for a great conversation, for important reminders of self-care, of focusing on the journey, enjoying the things that we're experiencing on a daily basis, rather than only focusing on the end of the journey.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Like, I think it's really nice to talk and like share about these things. Like, if it helps anyone, that then we're doing our job. Like, I think that's definitely really nice that you gave us opportunities as students or like post grad just to like talk and share our experiences. I think that's really powerful.